Hi, welcome to Our Small Table. Today we're making icebox cookies that are also M&M cookies. And there's a couple of things I'm going to say about this. So I'm going to measure the sugar while I'm talking instead of pre-measuring it. When I was a little girl, and actually still to this day, my mom had a Betty Crocker cookbook that I think she got in college, I'm not sure. And one day I wanted to make cookies, which normally would mean chocolate chip cookies, but we didn't have any chocolate chips in the house. So I went through the cookbook looking for cookies because it had a big cookie section and came across icebox cookies, which don't call for a lot of ingredients. So I made them and I loved them, and I actually kind of love the dough more than anything. They're very plain cookies as cookies. And ever since, if I just felt like having some easy cookies, especially if I just wanted the dough, and I didn't mind waiting for them to set up in the fridge, then I would use that recipe. This is not that recipe. My mom still has that cookbook as far as I know, like I said, but it's about 1,000 miles, 1,100 miles away from where I am right now. So this is a different recipe, and you can just make it, a little chunk of brown sugar in here. You can just make it as refrigerator cookies, or you can add the M&Ms. I have to break this up with my fingers. I'm going to set that aside for a second because I have some instructions about the egg as well. This is not strictly necessary because you can just make the recipe with a whole egg, but it really is slightly better if you use a little bit less than an egg. So what I do is I beat it up, and then these little sections of albumin that won't beat in, I just remove a couple of those. Then I wash my hands and add this to the cream, sugar, and butter. And so I'm going to wash my hands. I will be right back. Hands are washed, egg has been added, get that mixed in. You can see from what a wet batter it is at this point why I prefer to take out a little bit of the egg. But you still want more than a half of an egg, which is why I don't call for a particular measurement of egg. Unfortunately, the recipe that this is based off of did not use large eggs. And since large eggs are the standard, jumbos and extra larges are really a problem for the vast majority of bakers. How many of us keep multiple sizes of eggs in the fridge? I've said this in a previous video, and I'll say it again. You don't want to measure your vanilla like I'm doing it now over the bowl. If you spill, if something bumps against your hand, you will add way too much. You never want to measure anything over the bowl. But, as I said last time I mentioned this, I love the scent of vanilla, I love the flavor of vanilla, and I could stand a little bit of extra in this case. In most situations, the smaller the recipe is, the more precise you need to be, because if it's an 1/8 of a teaspoon measurement and you accidentally get twice as much, you've moved into a 1/4 teaspoon, which is a lot more. Whereas if you accidentally get an extra 1/8 of a teaspoon when you're measuring a tablespoon, it's not as big of a deal. This is our baking soda and salt. Go ahead and add it to the flour and then add to the wet ingredients. It seems that some people aren't aware that sugar is not a dry ingredient for baking. Sugar is a wet ingredient. That's why you add it with the butter and the egg and the vanilla. It's hygroscopic, and so it always counts as a wet ingredient when baking. If you add your sugar with the dry ingredients, then it won't mix together properly, and you'll have some problems with your recipe. Now, once I get this combined, it's going to go into the fridge, which is why I have not mentioned preheating an oven. There are two ways of refrigerating this. One is if you're just making icebox cookies, and one is if you're adding the M&Ms, and I'll demonstrate them both. We're doing the M&Ms. I'm actually recording this a little bit early because I have family coming from out of town, and I don't know how much time I'll have while they're here to get videos recorded. So my mom is coming, and red, white, and blue always makes me think of my mom. So when the Independence Day M&Ms went on sale, I snagged a couple, and I'm making these for her arrival. Now, if you're just going to do icebox cookies, then you would put the dough onto some saran wrap, roll it up into a cylinder, and stick that in the fridge, because later on, once it had cooled and hardened, you would slice it off, and those would be your cookies. Because I'm adding the M&Ms, you can do the same thing after the M&Ms are added. I just find it difficult to cut the cookies later because you're trying to cut through cold M&Ms. So instead, I will just cover this whole bowl with cling film, and it'll go into the fridge, and then we will scoop it like you would any other cookies in order to bake. So this needs to go in the fridge for at least 30 minutes. An hour is fine. And then we'll come back and bake them off a little bit later. Here we are. The dough has chilled in the fridge. The oven is preheating. And so you just do as you always do with cookies. Batch it up onto the baking sheet, a couple inches apart, and then we'll pop it in the oven, and it will bake at 325 degrees for 11 to 13 minutes. So I will be back when this is baked. And there we have it, some patriotic, in this case, M&M cookies. The recipe made 9. I've already eaten one, so there are 8 remaining here. Thanks for joining me at Our Small Table. Next time we're making Fiesta Chicken Kiev, which is another microwave recipe and very filling. Remember to check out the website, which is linked in this description of this video. It is also where you can find the recipe for these cookies. Have a great day. We'll see you soon.